Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. If this is your first time stopping by the channel, make sure you go ahead and subscribe and turn on your notifications so you don't miss out on anything that we upload to the channel. Also, if you're already a subscriber, welcome back. Thank you for being here. And let's get into today's content. As you can see, today's a beautiful day in Florida and the pool's right behind us. First, I wanted to talk to you about Linux. I don't know if you've noticed, but the last 2 weeks, we've been focusing on Linux. We have been teaching people commands of Linux. We also made a game around it, and those people had to use those recently learned Linux commands in order to successfully complete the game, and it was so much fun. We had a great time. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm gonna put a link in the description below for both videos, right? So one of them is going to talk about the top 10 Linux commands, and then the second video is going to be escape the OS. And so escape the OS is using those top 10 Linux commands in order to apply it in the game setting that they were in to successfully complete the game, and it was just a blast. So if you want to go check that out, links will be in the description below. For those who don't know what Linux is, and you're seeing me talk about these commands and you see this really cool game that people are playing, don't worry, this week's video is just for you. And in this week's video, I had the privilege of having one of my good friends come on the platform. Her name is Tam, and Tam is going to talk to you guys and explain what Linux is. Also, she's going to give you a little overview of where it can be found. And little tip, it's everywhere. Crazy thing about it is nobody knows, but it's behind the scenes and it's everywhere. So go ahead and stick around for the video. Make sure you watch it, get a little bit of info of what Linux is. And again, it's going to be a very high level, but you're just going to understand what Linux is, where it can be found. Also, because Tam is awesome and I want you guys to also be able to connect with her, links will be put in the description below of how you can get in contact with her, where you can find her stuff, because she's absolutely awesome. And I want to make sure that I connect you guys with Tam in order to get your career started using this foundational skill, which is learning Linux. Now on to the presentation, and I'll see you on the other side.
First off, Linux is an operating system and it's used everywhere. Most platforms, most of your cloud platforms are Linux based. So when you're thinking about, oh, I want to go out and I want to learn AWS, one of the key things that you should know, and this is something that I had Kelsey Hightower, he came onto the show and he talked about it. Which screen are you seeing? You see in the screen. Okay. And one of the things that he stated was cloud providers have gotten so good at selling Linux back to you. It's free as an operating system, but all they do is put a nice little pre-interface on top, maybe change a couple of things underneath as far as the kernel, and they sell it back to you and they make billions. So if you're wondering like where Linux is at, I actually want to show you why it's important to just have it as a foundational skill set. I've been using and working in Linux for 22 years. I've never been unemployed and I never would ever have to worry about being unemployed. So I look at it from a perspective of having a set of skills for a lifetime. And something that you can use whatever you feel like it. You can hop in and hop out as long as you keep up with what's going on. So I went online to see like to tell you what all industries that Linux touches, right? So just to give you an idea, here's 30 companies that run Linux. You've probably heard of them: Google, Twitter, Facebook, Amazon, IBM, McDonald's, the United States Navy, NASA. If you buy a smartwatch, Linux is in a smartwatch, mobile devices, space, any of your satellites, anything to keep you protected, any planes, F-35 satellites, any of that, they are using Linux. Raspberry Pi, your desktop computing, a lot of people sell like System 76 or laptops that are Linux based. But then you hear people say, oh, I'm buying me a Ubuntu laptop, which is Linux based. When they're talking about corporates, they're just talking about corporate networks, but the New York Stock Exchange uses Linux as well too. Traffic controlling when you're stopping at the red light. nuclear projects, bullet trains, and I don't know what TAMI-2 is. Says it's the supercomputer from China, but most of your high performance computers, anything dealing with your AI machine learning is probably Linux based. All your internet hosting providers, missiles and weapons, hackers. They even have other industries such as Wikipedia, Pizza Hut, the aviation. Walmart Labs is a big contributor. Walmart uses Linux. Anything that you can think of uses it. The Postal Service, of course, education, your colleges, University of Washington, Georgia Tech, they all have. University of Oregon has a big supercomputer and a big Linux district. They have a big Linux supercomputer, and they also have a big Linux user group as well. Movies, networking, Linux is featured on the embedded side in cars and boats. So your cars, like your 2018 Toyota Camry and up, your BMW, your even some of your latest hypercars also use Linux too. You just didn't know. Your Porsches, they all use Linux, and of course robotics as well too. So if you're wondering like where this career could go if you got into Linux, just as having those skills as a foundation, you can go anywhere. If you would like to get into high performance computing, quantum computing, if you want to work at NASA, if you want to work at Starlink or Starlink or SpaceX, you can go there. If you would like to work in any type of form or capacity of finance, you're probably going to use Linux. So I just want to give you an overview and expand beyond the commands that you just went through to show you what your career path could look like if you chose. And on top of that, I call it skill stacking. When you start stacking skills, you start looking at things such as automation and so forth. And now you start getting into what is it like to automate? What is it like to secure the operating system? What is it like to secure a satellite? How do you secure the actual traffic controllers? How do you secure that? How do you secure a car from being taken over by a hacker? These are all things that are centered around just as a foundation that you'll start picking up and getting into.
So welcome back, everyone. By now, you should have an understanding of what Linux is, but also you should have an idea of what are the companies that use it, where it can be found, all good information to get you going in the world of Linux. Now remember, keep in mind, if you want to get in contact with my friend Tam, links will be in the description of where you can find her, how you can connect with her, all the information that she has. But more importantly, check out the videos below about the top 10 Linux commands so that way you can learn them as well. And take a look at the Escape the OS game where we created, which is awesome, so that way you can see how you can take the commands and apply it in a setting to help you solve problems. Because at the end of the day, learning information just to learn it, it's not going to do you any good. You got to know how to apply it. So that's it for this week's video. Hopefully you got some great value out of it. Hopefully you learned a thing or two. And remember, don't forget to like the video, share it with a friend or family member, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Also turn on the notifications so you don't miss out on any videos we upload to the channel. I'm gonna go jump in this pool because it's hot out here, but I'll see you guys on the next video.